As world economies have continued to develop, we've had an increased need for super strong vehicles, and be it massive mining excavators or ultra-efficient electric supercars, the need for power can take on many different forms. So in today's video, I'm going to count down the top 15 most powerful vehicles. Number 15. The Hennessey Mammoth 1000 TRX. While Ford, Dodge, and Chevrolet may be some of the biggest names in the pickup truck game, it's Ram's Hennessey Mammoth 1000 TRX that holds the title of being the world's most powerful truck. Having an incredible 1,012 horsepower and more than 1,400 pound-feet of torque, it is by and large one of the most powerful street-legal trucks in the world. And because it can go from 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds, it's also one of the fastest. Powered with the help of a supercharged 6.2-liter V8, it's more of a supercar than a production model truck, and as a result, just 200 have been made. However, considering how insane these are, I'd say the extra craftsmanship is definitely worth it. Number 14. The U.S.S. While the U.S.S. may be just a prototype vehicle for now, it has the possibility of perhaps being one of the craziest off-road vehicles of all time. That's because this massive vehicle is set not only to be equipped with giant treads that can power up steep slopes and rough areas, but also have a large enough carrying capacity to lug up 3 Abrams tanks and an air-filled track system, which makes it buoyant in the water. It's believed that these capabilities could be useful when both responding to disasters and transporting military goods in rough combat conditions. And while it hasn't yet been approved for wide-scale production, as of now a 1 to 5 scale prototype has been built. However, whether or not it will actually get approval is still very much up in the air. Number 13. The Prelude FLNG. The status of Prelude FLNG as a vehicle is somewhat contested. As a floating liquefied natural gas platform, it doesn't regularly sail and instead spends most of its time producing oil. However, due to it having the potential to transport large quantities of oil to various ports, I decided it made the cut. Built in South Korea in 2013, it's 488 meters long and weighs more than 540,000 tons. For reference, that's so large that it has 5 times the displacement of a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. Constructed using over 235,000 tons of steel, it's moored to the seabed with the help of 16 steel spikes, with each spike being 65 meters long and 5.5 meters in diameter. And while all of this heft has allowed the Prelude FLNG to extract copious amounts of oil, it's also quite expensive. After all, it cost nearly $17 billion to build, and it's extremely expensive to operate. Yet despite this, it still manages to be profitable and is therefore still in use. Number 12. The NASA Crawler Transporters. Whenever NASA makes a large spaceship or rocket, they face the daunting task of not just launching it, but physically moving the monstrous vehicle to the launch site. Given that this task is quite difficult, it should come as little surprise that NASA has 2 vehicles which have the sole purpose of doing just that. Known as Crawler Transporters, they're nicknamed Hans and Franz, and were completed in 1965 at a cost of around $14 million each. Measuring in at about 40 meters long, 35 meters wide, and 8 meters high, at the time of construction they were the largest self-powered land vehicles in the world, and for much of their time in service they were used to transport the space shuttles. In order to operate, they require the assistance of 30 engineers, technicians, and drivers, making it a mission in and of itself to bring a spaceship to the launch site. Yet when you consider how important they are to NASA's space program, I doubt they'll ever be replaced anytime soon. Number 11. The 2023 Lotus Evija. In recent years, electric cars have started to become more and more mainstream. But for those of you with exceptionally large bank accounts, I'd suggest taking a look at the 2023 Lotus Evija. Considered by many to be the most powerful EV on the market, it's got a muscle-bound electric powertrain that can generate 1,972 horsepower, with this being almost double the horsepower provided by more expensive hypercars, such as the Aston Martin Valkyrie. At under 1,700 kilograms, it's the lightest electric hypercar out there, and it's this mix of being super powerful and lightweight that allows the car to efficiently reach a top speed of more than 320 kph and go from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. However, while this is all very impressive, the car does have its fair share of downsides. After all, if you decide to go at fast speeds, the battery drains itself at a very rapid pace. And due to its status as an electric vehicle, it doesn't make the exhilarating sounds associated with fast driving. The car is also very inaccessible, as only 130 were made, and they cost a whopping $2.3 million a pop. So yeah, I think it's fair to say the Lotus Evija is as powerful as it is pricey. Number 10. The Gerald Ford class. Throughout the Cold War, the United States developed many different designs for aircraft carriers, with the Nimitz arguably being the most advanced of them all. However, after years of using the same design, in recent years the U.S. Navy has finally developed a replacement for their Cold War-era carriers, known as the Gerald Ford class. The first one to be built was completed in 2017, and as of now, a total of 3 are currently in operation. Costing approximately $14 billion each, these carriers certainly aren't cheap, but they have a host of cool features that somewhat justify the price. Beyond simply being larger than its contemporaries, it has far more automated technology on board. As a result, it requires 500 to 900 less crew members than the Nimitz class, cutting operational costs by a third. Beyond its lower crew complement, the Gerald Ford class can also do 160 sorties per day, as opposed to the Nimitz's 140, is able to produce about 150% more electrical power, and has the ability to interoperate very well with other Navy, Army, and Air Force vessels. In terms of firepower, it has the ability to hold up to 90 aircraft and is equipped with weapons such as Raytheon Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles and a close-in weapon system, making it very dynamic. Best of all, the Gerald Ford class also has an extremely high weight and stability allowance, allowing it to accommodate the added weight of new systems that will be installed over its 50-year operational life. Number 9. The Bell-Az 757-10. When it comes to top-of-the-line dump trucks, which we don't often think of the best come not from the United States, Canada, or Western Europe, but of all places from Belarus. First sold commercially in October of 2014, the vehicle is absolutely massive, as it's about as long as 2 double-decker buses, about as high as 1.5 giraffes, and it can lift 75 fully grown African elephants. Ever since its launch, most of these dump trucks have gone on to service Russian mining companies, and the Bell-Az is able to do its job effectively thanks to its extraordinary amount of power. More specifically, it has 8 wheels in pairs instead of the usual 6, and its 2 16-cylinder diesel engines that drive 4 electric motors dwarf the more typical 4 or 6-cylinder engines that power your average family car. In fact, the Bell-Az 757-10 derives so much power from its engine that its peak torque is about 24 times what a Formula One car engine can manage, making it insanely strong. If that wasn't enough, its turning radius of about 20 meters is better than expected for a vehicle of its size, allowing it to work well in many different spaces. However, being this strong does have some drawbacks. After all, the Bell-Az's fuel consumption is an estimated 1,300 liters per 100 kilometers, and it cost about $6 million to just buy one. However, when you consider the benefits, a Bell-Az purchase is a no-brainer for many large mining conglomerates. Number 8. The Panzer VIII Maus tank. There have been amazing improvements in military technology in the last 50 years or so, but Germany's World War II-era Panzer VIII Maus tank has stood the test of time. That's because despite being about 80 years old, this massive vehicle still holds the record for being the world's largest tank. Fortunately, this tank never saw battle during the World War II years. After all, while the designs were finished in 1944 and 5 were ordered, only 2 hulls and 1 turret were completed before the testing grounds were captured by advancing Soviet forces. However, had it seen action, it could have easily been a game-changer. Designed to punch holes through enemy fortifications, it certainly had the size to be competent in that role, as the one complete prototype that was made measured in at 10.2 meters in length, 3.7 meters in width, and 3.6 meters in height, and had a total weight of 188 tons. Now, its main armament was a Krupp-designed 128mm gun, and by all accounts it was strong enough to destroy all Allied armor fighting vehicles in service at the time. However, the Maus's main issue was that it was difficult to develop an engine and drivetrain which were large enough to propel the tank but small enough to fit inside of it, leading to feasibility issues right from the get-go. While this problem was eventually overcome, it proved to be too little too late for Germany, and once the Allies got their hands on it, they promptly scrapped the design, spelling doom for what could have been an insane fighting machine. Number 7. F-35 Lightning II. As of right now, there's a consensus that the F-35 Lightning II is the most powerful jet to ever been built. An integral part of the stealth aircraft fleet of the United States Air Force, these jets are made by Lockheed Martin and serve on the air forces of America and its allies. Able to reach speeds of up to Mach 1.6 and fly for distances of up to 2,800 kilometers, the F-35 is extremely fast, and this is complemented by the fact that its design is so stealthily built that its radar cross-section is the approximate size of a golf ball. On board, the F-35's armaments are quite solid too, as these planes generally have a 25mm gun and a combination of between 4 to 10 missiles. And while this may sound quite small, the reason for this is because of the F-35's main role. It's not a dogfighting attack jet, but it's more of a discreet fighter. For example, one of its more important roles is to do reconnaissance and then forward that information to U.S. Army and Navy vehicles, allowing them to effectively fight on the ground. The F-35 can also engage in advanced electronic warfare, allowing them to disable enemy vehicles without firing a single shot. And as a final note, the F-35 is also great at taking on whatever weapons are necessary for any given job, as they have very fine-tuned missiles that are often used for very specific things such as anti-tank, anti-air, or anti-ship missions, with most of these missiles being very long-range. So it is fair to say that the F-35 Lightning II really does it all. Number 6. Big Muskie. When it comes to moving rocks and dirt, a heavy-duty vehicle is necessary, but the reality is that practically nothing out there is quite as hefty as Big Muskie. At a weight of 12,200 tons and a height of nearly 22 stories, it was one of the largest moving machines in the world when it was in active service. Built by Bucyrus Erie, it took 340 rail cars and 260 trucks to ship all of its components, while it took a further 200,000 man-hours to construct the entire thing. However, after about 2 years of hard work and the modern equivalent of about $176 million in funding, it was finally completed, and it first entered service with the Central Ohio Coal Company in 1969. It was with this firm that it began to dig for coal on a 100,000-acre property, and in order to scoop up the coal sediments, it used a bucket that was so large it could hold 2 Greyhound buses in it side by side. In order to move around and dig dirt, it made use of 2 hydraulically driven walker feet that were powered by 18 1,000 horsepower and 10 625 horsepower electric motors. And this was so taxing that it used the energy equivalent of 27,000 homes in order to operate. As a result, it should come as little surprise that throughout its 22-year career, it moved more than twice the amount of earth that was moved during the construction of the Panama Canal, uncovering over 20 million tons of Ohio brown coal during its lifetime. However, over time, the public began to turn away from coal energy, and by 1991 it was too expensive to justify its costs, leading to the machine's retirement. Number 5. The Fujian. Until recently, China owned only 2 aircraft carriers in comparison to the United States' 20, although that's changed with the Fujian, the country's 3rd carrier. It's been launched very recently and has turned heads for a variety of reasons. With the help of imported Russian technology, it's believed to be comparable to the U.S. Navy's world-leading Ford-class series. Its displacement of about 90,000 tons, length of about 300 meters, and 78-meter-long flight deck make it physically imposing. But beyond this, the Fujian also has a catapult launching system, which appears to hold 3 separate deck catapults, with each being able to shoot out multiple types of aircraft depending on the mission at hand. This is possible via a system known as integrated electric propulsion, which is powered with the help of a massive gasoline or diesel-run engine, and as such, there's no doubt that the Fujian is a high-tech vehicle. However, I should note that the Fujian also has been the subject of a lot of controversy. On one hand, Western media has criticized the Fujian for its name, as Fujian is in fact the province directly opposite from Taiwan. A South China Morning Post article also seemed to expose some strange discrepancies as it was photographed undergoing a fitting at a Shanghai shipyard that showed it without its radar and weapons systems in place, which is quite strange for a vehicle that should be a finished product. Therefore, the Fujian continues to be shrouded in mystery, and only time will tell whether or not it will play a major role in Chinese activities in the South China Sea and the Pacific. However, I should note that if government reports are to be believed, the Fujian should be undergoing sea trials this year. Number 4. The Virginia-class Block V submarine. While submarines are often forgotten by casual observers, America's Virginia-class Block V submarine is arguably the most powerful vehicle in the United States' arsenal. First launched in 2003, it comes in at 115 meters in length and is propelled by an insanely powerful nuclear reactor that provides over 280,000 horsepower, in addition to what's already provided by its two 40,000 horsepower steam engines. This in turn allows this massive submarine to travel at speeds of up to 46 kilometers an hour, and while this doesn't make it the fastest sub in the U.S. arsenal, its high-tech additions more than make up for it. One of the most important devices on board is the Unified Modular Mast, replacing the standard assortment of several masts. This is important because the unification allows the sub to quickly combine all of the info it gathers about its surroundings to create a well-informed plan of action. Virginia-class submarines also have an advanced pump jet propulsor, which is superior to a traditional blade propeller because it reduces the risk of cavitation and is significantly quieter. To increase its enemy detection and communication capabilities, the Virginia-class makes use of several advanced sonar arrays, all of which provide enhanced passive detection capabilities. Sonar sensor input to the submarine's combat system, safer operation in coastal waters, enhanced under-ice navigation, and improved anti-submarine warfare performance. So in tandem, these sonars essentially allow a Virginia-class sub to hear enemy ships that are up to 4,800 kilometers away. And when combined with its global strike missiles, Virginia-class subs can then go on to accurately hit those targets from practically any corner of the globe, while launching the missiles at up to 20 times the speed of sound. When you further consider that the Virginia-class also comes equipped with a plethora of torpedoes and may have a nuclear-powered laser added onto it, it becomes clear that these subs are insanely powerful. Number 3. The Gustav gun. While Hitler dreamed up a large variety of crazy vehicles throughout World War II, one of the most insane to actually make it into fruition was the Gustav gun. First launched in 1941, it was the largest gun ever built, as it had a barrel length of 32 meters and a height of 11 meters, and it weighed over 1,300 tons. It also had the ability to fire massive artillery pieces at a rate of about 1 every 30 to 45 minutes, at a distance of up to 47 kilometers. It was great in theory because it could fire both 5-ton explosive rounds and 7-ton armor piercers, both of which would deal insane amounts of damage if they hit their target. The Gustav gun was also great at fort destroying, as it was completed too late to achieve its initial purpose, destroying the forts along the Maginot Line. It was quite effective during the siege of Sevastopol against the Soviet Union. Yet, despite its upsides, the Gustav gun was ultimately too impractical to see widespread use in combat. The first major issue with the gun was that it could only be moved using 2 railway tracks, meaning that the Germans had to quickly assemble long lines of tracks with crews of up to 2,500 people just to get the Gustav gun from place to place. Its massive size also meant that it was an easy target for bomber planes, and as a result, at least 2,000 soldiers were needed at all times to protect the gun from air attacks. To top this off, it used massive amounts of resources, and so while it was a technological marvel, it was simply too wasteful and impractical to make sense on dynamic and changing battlefields. As such, the gun was quickly scrapped after the siege of Sevastopol was over, and it was likely destroyed in 1945 in order to prevent it from getting into the hands of the advancing Soviet army. Number 2. The U.S.S. Zumwalt. The U.S. Navy is always looking for ways to improve the efficacy of its forces, and the U.S.S. Zumwalt should, at least in theory, be a powerful addition to America's armed forces. Considered to be the largest and most technologically advanced surface combatant in the world, its length of 183 meters and weight of about 15,000 tons makes it pretty massive. Yet the incredible thing is that all of this heft doesn't stop it from being stealthy. You see, its design compensates for its size due to the fact that it consists of futuristic sharp angles that turn its radar cross-section to the approximate size of a small fishing boat. In terms of speed, its wave-piercing hull allows it to easily move through the water, while its 2 Rolls-Royce gas turbines drive a set of Curtiss-Wright electric generators that make the ship both powerful and fuel-efficient. In terms of its armaments, it's a jack of all trades, as it has different weaponry for different situations. For example, for more long-range targets, it makes use of its 80 advanced vertical launch cells to launch standard Tomahawk and Sea Sparrow missiles, and 2 155mm advanced gun systems. For short-range targets, it makes use of 2 Mark 46 close-in guns, and if things get really hairy, it can deploy up to 5 helicopters to neutralize those pesky adversaries. Now, while all this should make the Zumwalt an incredible ship, I should note that serious questions have been raised as to whether or not the Zumwalt is all that useful. This is because while the Zumwalt was designed to assist in land attacks, exactly how this could work logistically was never properly ironed out. And this is not to mention the fact that many of its capabilities are simply better suited for other types of ships. So while the Zumwalt may be able to do it all, it will likely not get the chance to reach its full potential anytime soon, as it's often passed up in favor of more highly specialized vehicles. Number 1. The Beast. Few people are as high profile as the President of the United States, and in order to move him around safely, he's transported in an insanely powerful vehicle. Known as the Beast, the presidential limousine is made to look like a Cadillac, but outside of its headlamps, tail lamps, and grille design, the car itself is far from your typical caddy. You see, the Beast takes things up a notch by sporting a chassis, diesel engine, and transmission that are similar to those used in GM's heavy-duty commercial vehicles. It's because of this heavy-duty chassis that some pretty crazy additions can be made, with this including 20-centimeter thick car doors that weigh as much as those on a Boeing 747 aircraft, 13-centimeter thick bulletproof car windows, and a reinforced 13-centimeter thick steel plate that can fend off roadside bombs. Beyond those features, the tires are reportedly run flats made from super high-strength Kevlar, meaning that they function even after being punctured. Interestingly enough, the car's protection even extends to its interior. You see, if faced with a chemical attack, the inside of the car can be completely contained, as the fuel tank can surround itself with a special foam material in order to insulate it from outside threats. And if the president ever gets in a really messy situation, the trunk of the car is fully stocked with tear gas canisters, shotguns, grenade launchers, oxygen tanks, night vision cameras, and a cache of the president's blood type just in case. In other words, the car really is ready for anything. However, despite all this safety and protection, the Beast also has its fair share of problems. After all, due to all of this heft, it has a max speed of just about 100 kilometers an hour and a fuel efficiency of about 3.4 kilometers per liter, making it pretty expensive to run and not ideal for speeding away from a dangerous scenario. The Beast is also notoriously difficult to drive and prone to breaking down, causing it to sometimes get into unplanned and potentially dangerous situations. So as a result, the Beast is only ever released on special occasions that require added security and is not used for more routine rides. I'll see you next time.
Watch our Vehicles playlist for more top 15 videos about amazing vehicles. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best vehicle videos.